Hi everyone, we are still waiting for the rest, so let's wait a few minutes more and then we start. Welcome, welcome. I would like to say a few words about the title of the exhibition, which is homework. That means that we were creating those works and projects in order to make a homework during the classes. So that's the one meaning. And the second meaning of homework is related to the situation of creating art at home or turning the home works or home activities into art. And basically that's the idea of our project. Another thing about this exhibition is that that's more kind of more than exhibition itself. It is it's a proposition for exhibit, for show, or it is a possibility of show. That's why we created a model that can allow you to see how the work could function in real environment, in my Dom Publiczny, in my public house. So I created a model and students created the works that can easily exist in this domestic situation. So just to tease you a little, we will remind once again that you're participating in the exhibition called Homework, which is hosting 12 artists that you can see right now, and each of them will show you the work, will introduce you to the ideas of these works and projects and process. Please enjoy.
Homework.
From 12 directions to the academic circle, 2 years moving and growing together as a disparate household. Now to protect themselves from the specter spanning the world, they retreat to their individual mountaintops.
Each taking the name Jerome, but that is the only similarity, as each has within them their own 12 directions outward. Those 144 directions sometimes cross and weave in beautiful and intricate patterns, and sometimes, with guidance, something unique can happen.
A house is built, a home is created, and with work, it becomes a place for the disparate 12 to come together as a family in their seclusion.
Please use your all imagination and empathy to feel like at home and to identify oneself with this very domestic exhibition. That's the model. You can imagine how it could exist in reality. We are now in the moment of changing our approach to reality, to what's real and what's virtual, what's a illusion. But also we are working here on the scale. So you have to switch from one scale to the other, from the human scale to micro scale, or this is basically how the whole situation looks like. However, we have particular presentations prepared as a specific situations related to works. The first artist is Nika Otto that would welcome you at the beginning in a corridor with her work called "First I Was Afraid, I Was Petrified, but I Will Survive."
Hi guys, hi. So to tell you about this work I like to brief you about our classes. So our classes are called Art History in Practice, which is basically how they look like is Natalia tells us about a certain genre in art, and then we're encouraged to try it out or get inspired by it and create a quick like 15-minute work with the supplies that we have around us in the workshop or at home. So this work has been inspired by the Finnish fetish and the LA look, which we know about, like the works from that time, and this genre were often use this like polished look. They're oval shapes, very aesthetically pleasing and very shiny and inspired and kind of quoting, referring to the commercial world of products and like the shiny cars, you know. So I took that idea and made it into this playful commentary on commercializing more organic pleasures, like stepping on a crunchy leaf. So that resulted in creating this piece of a few leaves. It looks like a leaf is unraveling, actually, which are representing the forever petrified pleasure of forever crunchy, satisfyingly crunchy leaf. And in my statement, I also said that in the light of the pandemic, this piece kind of got this new light of becoming a totem of hope, because what it makes me think of is that we can preserve what's most dear to us with what we just have at home, with what we just have around us, which is, yeah, that's what it made me think of. But then looking at the model, the size of it, I really like how this acts in the space, because the size is just, it's not a totem anymore. It becomes this like monument of hope for me. And I don't know, I like that it's the entry piece as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Nika. Thank you for joining this project, and thank you for being with us, and for all you have admitted to this project.
Thank you.
The next artist is located in the bedroom, and the author of this work that you can see inside the room is Varvara Tokareva. The work called Pliade. Maybe she will explain the name, or maybe something else. Welcome, Varvara. Can you say a few words?
Yes, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Varvara Tokareva. I'm from Russia. And I had a lot of questions about the name of this work, which is пряди in Russian. It means like artificial hair. It's a part of the wig. And the source of this work is a very old advertisement, which I captured during my last trip to Russia. Actually, it was very small storage where you can buy a lot of things for beauty, like, I don't know, some cosmetics and other stuff. And as well, you can buy a lot of things for beautification there. For example, like wigs and artificial hairs. And I guess that this this store was established in the early 2000s. So they just created the advertisement, and still it exists on the street. And I'm not judging it. No, no, no. I'm just trying to be very silent observer. So I think this image could be a good marker to see how the world is changing, because nowadays, of course, so many people, so many things happen, like all this hashtag like Me Too, and all this movement about body positive. And I don't know, advertisement changed completely. And now such an image can be like a fossil from the past, you know. And approaching to women as a doll, it's totally inappropriate nowadays. And it's just a small example, you know. For example, we have this TV series from HBO, like Sex and the City. And in one episode, girls, like 4 girls, 4 main characters, they are going party, and actually they are wearing furs. And this is happening on the Manhattan. And like 25 years ago, it was okay. But now wearing a furs, it's like, it's also a marker just how society is changing. So yeah. So about the process, I got the picture, and then I created serigraphy from this original image. And I think my strategy is very close to what Andy Warhol did in 60s. I just work with ready-made picture, and then I created a print. And you can never predict how lo-fi the final picture will be, because having this 7 layers means like each layer will be a different color. And even if you will be very precise, counting how dots will like come to each other, you can never say how the final result will be. So edition looks very well. It's around 12 large imprints. And I like this idea of making this lo-fi effect. So the original picture on the prints looks even more weird than it's in the real life. Basically, that's it. And really thank you for hosting this exhibition, and I am happy to be part of it. Thank you so much for your attention. Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you, Barbara. We call this technique or strategy quality cheating. Oszukiwanie na jakości. This is how we called it, since we all using mobile phones, camera, and that kind of tools that not always allows us to make a good quality. However, we can work it over and achieve really nice effects at the end.
Mistakes are very beautiful here. I agree. Dzięki. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next guest, next artist is Neo Chang with his work called Broken Memories. Neo, could you tell a few words about it?
Hello.
Hi.
Do you hear me?
It's
Yes.
quiet.
I created this work after learning about ready-made. Wait, is the sound still working?
Feedback.
There is an echo.
Neo, are you pretending to be Jack?
I do like effect, you know, it's like very serious.
Neo, turn your speakers off, maybe.
Yes. I was working with my broken memory sticks. This was the day that we were learning about ready-made in art history in practice.
Yeah, it's, if I may interrupt you, I think there is still something affecting your sound.
Yes, I think there was a lot of technical difficulties that I'm trying to figure out, I have a lot of microphones in my room. As long as you can understand me. Yes, right now I have 4 microphones in my room that try to, transform, but unfortunately, I think it's failing. So that day, Sana asked me to borrow one of the USB stick, and I actually let her borrow that, and it was actually found broken. And the same day, we had to create a work based on objects in honor of ready-made artists. So I created this art called Broken Memories.
Thank you. This I will add a few words because in case the rest didn't understand exactly, so, I will add few words. You can see the work in the situation of bathroom. That's just my fantasy and the stage designer fantasy, Barbara Szymczak, who is with us. But we are using this work of Neo, which is called Broken Memory, and from one side it is very literal, because this is a broken memory. That means that the stick is broken, but I think it has very deep sense when we think about how our memory is shaped, and this is represented by ready-made object in this case that are, I mean, those 2 sticks. That this is the documentation of a real objects proposed by Neo. Thank you, Neo, for being with us and for introducing your work and sharing this idea.
Thank you, Natalia.
The next artist that I would like to introduce is Cara Di Stefano with her work Ground Cookie. Hi, Cara, can you explain yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. So this is kind of an ongoing series I've been making called Ground Cookies. So it's mostly organic material and cast iron prints. So here you can see in the model that it's in the kitchen. I used the tray from my oven to hold the organic materials and the iron castings. So this is kind of going along with my fascination with the ground, the textures and the elements, just kind of these pieces that, you know, we walk over every single day and get pretty overlooked. So along with that, in our class in art history and practice, this was with our land art section. So kind of my response to the hyper masculinity that was in the land art movement in the 60s and 70s. And this body of work is kind of a parody of that monumental scale, that Heiser-esque, you know, absolutely gigantic, need a GPS to navigate out in the world. So during quarantine, I created like my own environment. And this is, you know, not massive out in the desert, but 32.5 by 45 centimeter sheet of watercolor paper. And you can see the oven tray. So I kind of created this land art monument at home, this mini environment, mini landscape with this dirt and leaves. And here you can see the castings aren't here, but you can see the marking that they left. So I had water dripping onto this for about 6 hours and then let it dry, which took about 2 days. So within kind of quarantine, this was my collaboration with nature in a sense. And this 2 days of drying was kind of this chance to, you know, step back, kind of watch the process and not intervene, and really let the materials do what they wanted. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this story about how to create unmonumental monuments.
Thank you.
Let's move to another artist who is Hanna Petrikina. I'm not sure if I'm good in pronunciation. Hanna created a project or a set of objects that is collected under one name, Flat Ceramics, and I hope she will tell you a few words about it.
Sure, I will, and thank you for introducing me and my work, Natalia. Yes, this project is called Flat Ceramics, and it goes very well with my general fascination with the contemporary art strategies and deconstructivism in particular, because I am a ceramist. I'm doing ceramics on a wheel. I cast it, and once I was thinking about how we perceive pottery, for example, like something three-dimensional. And I was thinking, what will happen if I'll take the volume of this ceramic objects, like cup or vase or something like that? Will we still be able to perceive something very what we used to it, like kitchen utensils? As for deconstructivism, it's just there is an opposition here between flat and three-dimensional, and I'm questioning it by just again taking the volume of usually three-dimensional objects. And also for me, in the current situation of quarantine, I believe that isolation makes people more introspective. It makes people just think more about the situation. And sometimes I think we consider how useless now or how fragile is the world, and with this kind of useless object, it's like a good meditation about just how we perceive things in general. So I guess that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your work and story. And I just want to say that we are now in a bit dysfunctional kitchen situation where actually we are hosting female artists, but they are, I think, approaching the idea of females' work in a very subversive way. So they use the technology like oven in order to make art, or they create table settings, which is, I think, ceramic very often is related to female art and craft, and here we find beautiful ceramic, however very useless, and I think that opens a very interesting discussion on functionality and dysfunctionality in general. But let's move to the living room and see whether we can use TV in a proper way. Our next artist is Jack Williams, and he's presenting his work called Coverage during his show, and maybe he can tell you a few words about it, and after all we can see the video.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Hello, my name is Jack. So this is called Coverage. It's actually a kind of double entendre. And I will have to go into an anecdote to explain the reason behind this. So, as you can see on the TV screen, it doesn't appear that there's that much going on there, and this is very intentional. It's a minimalist piece of work, a minimalist video, but it also has a conceptual minimalism attached to it. So I will give you the anecdote now. So yeah, this was a video that was filmed in Minsk in Belarus. We have a lot of Russian people here, so I'm sure you have been to Belarus or know about Belarus. But for those who don't know the situation in Belarus, it's a very secretive, kind of totalitarian country that doesn't allow many outsiders into it. And yeah, I was on the subway in Minsk, and it's kind of a scary situation. They have like police who guard the entrances, scan your bags for bombs, but also they're very suspicious of any kind of filming activity done by an outsider. So while I was on the metro, I'm wearing this jacket here. In this pocket, it's kind of transparent, but not. You can't see any defined imagery through it. So I put my phone in this pocket because I was so scared of being scrutinized by the police for filming in Belarus that I just put it in my pocket, and I filmed just a kind of single shot of the Belarus metro. And yeah, so my fear was of the police coming down hard on me for reporting about their country. But so the piece is about the coverage of the fabric that covered the phone that was filming, but it also pertains to news coverage in Belarus, or the lack of coverage, because in Belarus the state media, the media is state-owned, so any kind of news coverage in Belarus will be kind of government propaganda. On the other hand, because it's such a secretive country, you don't have much news footage about the actual realities of life in Belarus. So what you have in the video is something with no defined imagery at all, just some flashing lights, but yeah, we can watch it.
Yeah, but you can still...
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, nothing's really going on. We just have this kind of fleshy color with the occasional flash of light. And yeah, so as an outsider, I'm like providing coverage about the country of Belarus, but it is such a secretive country, and you fear for the repercussions of filming within this country. That yeah, what you will get from Belarus is not a defined image of anything. And so yeah, this brings me back to the conceptual minimalism. So my own fears about being busted by the police forced me to take this minimalist approach. But yeah, there's this conceptual minimalism about how censorship is like kind of creating a form of minimalism, as in the minimalism of information or representation. And yeah, there's one particular quote by Merleau-Ponty, which it sounds devastatingly simple, but he looked at perception and phenomenology, and he said that we only see what we look at, which is such a simple kind of phrase. But in this case, in terms of censorship in totalitarian countries, we only see what we're allowed to look at, rather than we only see what we look at. And in totalitarian states, what we look at is not really a true depiction of anything. Although you could level claims that the mass media for not really making any sort of true depiction of the world. And yeah, that brings me on to, could you just go back to the model? Yeah, that brings me to this kind of final irony that I didn't realize until just now. But with this television set, you get this idea of domesticity and this idea of broadcast and reach. So if this living room is put in the Belarusian context, you would have this minimalism about the minimalism of information that they receive. If you put it in a context outside of Belarus, it's about the minimal amount of information that we see about it. So yeah, we see this kind of transformation motif as well. Sorry, I've rambled on far too long, but yeah, thanks for letting me talk so long.
No worries. Thank you, Jack, and thank you for this great adventure of watching Belarusian metro or subway. That was my first chance to do that, and for most of the guests today, probably it's the first chance as well. So thank you for exhibiting a bit of this unknown country.
Yeah, one thing I should point out is I'm not a Belarus hater. Just the government's a bit shit, but Belarusian people are amazing, and yeah, I really enjoyed their company while I was in that country. So yeah, just fuck the government, not fuck the people.
Yeah, I believe that people in Belarus are great, and I'm really looking forward to go there once they open the borders. I mean, not only Belarus, but I mean also our borders will be open. So let's move outside in that case and take some breath, some fresh air. Here we meet with a work from Honorata Bialic. The work is called Flattering Smoke. That's the one you can see this butterfly on the balcony. Honorata, may I ask you for a few words?
I'm not sure if Honorata is in the...
Okay, so we probably missed, she missed this meeting. So I can tell you just a few words that Honorata did this work while doing or making a walk, and then she found those poppies, which she arranged with a bud in the shape of butterfly. I think she could tell you more about the idea. However, I have a feeling that it's very strong and very clear, or that many association comes to everyone's mind at this point. So you can associate it with all the addictive situations related to poppies and cigarettes, but also to the situation of changing state of minds or things like that. And that's very simple gesture that the artist make during the walk. I think that's very brilliant idea, very clear message, and very powerful work. So thank you, Honorata, for sharing this work with us, even though she couldn't join us today. And since we are a bit outside, we are returning to corridor. However, this work was created in open air, and that's the work by Andrew Tarrant. And the work is called Pareidolia Pile. Andrew, are you there?
I'm here. I'm a ceramic artist from Canada, so I'm usually attracted to materials. So when we were out in the garden for one of our classes to create some art in the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or whatever we had, I was immediately attracted to the big pile of casting sand. And just started to make a face in it. As we look around the world, we try to look for familiar things and objects like clouds or the profile of a mountain or something. And a lot of the times we look for faces and things. So this time I'm doing some forced pareidolia. I'm making it into a face. So it's the materials are basically staring back at you, which is how I feel sometimes in my studio back home in Canada. My materials are piled up around me and they're staring at me, kind of guilting me into making something. So that's my pareidolia pile.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you for being here with us. It's a pleasure to host you in this exhibition. And here you can see how it looked like that time when Andrew was outside looking for a possibility to create an art piece. So be careful.
I miss outside.
Our next artist is Sana excuse me for surname. Sana, I realize I have never read your surname loudly, so I assume it's Shahid.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And Sana created a work called Rolls, but what you can see in the image, it's not a toilet paper actually. It's something much more interesting, and I hope Sana will tell you what it is.
Hello, everyone. So I've worked on the idea of bill receipts. So when I came to Poland, I decided to document my journey somehow, and I decided to collect all of the bill receipts. And as I was doing it, I did it for a few weeks, and then after a while, I noticed that I was short of the space, because these receipts, they require a lot of space than I actually imagined. So I decided to, so this changed the whole dynamic of the idea, and then I decided to work on the idea, the continuous process of consumerism instead, because it's a never ending process, and it keeps on going, and we cannot actually stop it at any moment. So I decided to do this. And about the process of creating this artwork, so I've made a roll. It seems quite small, but it's actually a very long roll, and it takes up a lot of space when it opens. And it's just like a bill receipt roll, and I've manually written text on it. And but when you proceed to the middle, the details are gone, the details are disappearing, and only the total sum is getting bigger and bigger, because in my opinion, the total sum is what matters the most in the end, and that's what everyone looks at mostly. um, so this was the whole idea, but then after I presented this at in the class, I got a few more interpretations and a few more angles on this. So there's another interpretation which is associated with the environmental issues, because with the bill receipts we use a lot of paper, and this raises a question that do we really need this much? Do we really need to use this much paper, or can we find a solution for this or something like this? So that's it.
Yeah, or do we really need to buy so many things? Do we really need them? That's another issue. And I must say that I was really impressed when you showed how consequent you were with collecting all those things and managing to type it on the new paper and to count it and find the total. And actually, I have a question right now. Do you remember what was the total for at the end for everything? Did you make any summary?
No, actually, the total was different because I used different bill receipts. So because I would talk from my experience, because I used to look at the total only because I don't understand Polish. I used to try to understand it, but then it was useless in the beginning. So, but then now I know more. When I was writing down the stuff from the bill receipts, I actually started to understand the words in the receipt itself. And about the total, I did not actually pay attention to the total myself in the end. So it was just the total on different separate receipts, mainly, yeah.
But that would be interesting to know how much you have spent during your stay in Poland. Usually these are probably small amounts, but altogether it makes something.
Yeah, that was my whole idea, but then I gave up on the idea because it's just these receipts are these tiny creatures crawling up in every corner of your space, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, at the end it's space consuming. That's also interesting how the small things are how to say colonizing our space.
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, let's go. You saw probably in background image of the hand, and that's the representation or possibility for exhibiting the work of Madeleine Chua in my house in one of the rooms, and the work is called Mirroring Hand Movie, and I think that Mac has something to tell you.
Hi everyone. So my piece, Mirroring Hand Movie, it's an appropriation of a work by the dancer and choreographer Yvonne Rainer. So in 1966, she was recuperating from surgery and she was in hospital. So from the hospital bed itself, she did a video, and it was just simply a film of her hand and like the actions that her hand made. And I saw this film a couple of years ago, and it really made an impression on me. I thought that it was so simple, yet so powerful, just the movements of the hand. And we had this class in our art history and practice course where Natalia invited someone to talk to us about dance and movement and performance. And she made some reference to Yvonne Rainer, and we had some exercises. For example, we had a partner and we had to touch your partner's hands, and we went through like the sensations, and we did another exercise where we were kind of walk down the corridor with our blindfolded, for example, I think. Yeah, so it was this idea of simple and everyday movements, which I wanted to respond to. So it's called mirroring because of two reasons. One, simply because it's an appropriation, so I'm copying her work. But also, I was able to see Yvonne Rainer's work on the internet. So as a screen, the only way in which I can kind of copy her easily is by literally mirroring her and her actions. So it's also, I guess, a reminder of how these sorts of works are made and how we can respond to them. I guess another interesting thing about this piece is this idea of hand washing, you know, during these times. So once we had this exercise where some of our classmates responded to the works that we made, and Nika, she said like it was like a kind of like a sexy car wash commercial. So like seeing these sorts of movements make me think of, for example, a kind of hand wash dance. And I think there was this idea from Andrew as well about when fingers try to hug. So it's almost as if like, you know, your fingers are trying to hug each other. Yeah, so that's my piece. Thank you.
Let's see if a few minutes of a video. Let's proceed. You can return to these works. We will tell you how at the end, and you can see the whole movie. But let's give some more attention to the others. We still have two artists that are waiting to introduce their works, and this is Samuel Stevens with his work 602 T, and that's the reconstruction of the original work in my place, in my room, in my atelier at home. In the model you can see, but some will tell you about the idea, because here it is represented by two images. However, the idea is much more deeper. So please, tell us a few words.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sam, and I study sculpture. So I guess this work is also interesting to me, because I'm interested, of course, in objects and the stories and the histories about those things. But in the context of this class, it came when we were discussing conceptual art firstly. So my quick summary about conceptual art is that anything can be art. So this is the first point of departure, and then the second also topic we discussed that interests me was site specificity, which came from many directions, but also as a reaction from a land art and a few other concepts you already heard about. So I'll tell you what actually is this image. That's two pictures taken of the academy shortly after Second World War. So the test for me was if I can combine those two influences about the anything can be art and about the site specificity. And so already this artwork happened, but it was like a test to make for a moment that classroom space into an artwork. So in the end, I guess it works, but yeah, you can read also the text, and this was kind of documentation from what I actually performed in that moment when our classroom was the artwork.
I just want to add that for those who don't know the academy in Wrocław, this is this white rectangle is pointing the place where we used to meet for classes, and there is a new building of academia at the moment, and I think it was very interesting to start thinking about the place as something that didn't exist before, and now it is created as a real space, but also created by created by people who are meeting there as some kind of to understand the place as a situation as well. So thank you, Sam. And how to say last but not least, there is an Alperen Sahin. I don't know if I'm correct. I understand now that we were never using the surnames, so sorry guys for that. However, it was nice to be with you in very close contact and without this formal things. And I'll be presenting the work An or N. He will explain because it has a meaning, important meaning. So please, Alp, join us and tell us a few words.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, but maybe you can speak a bit louder.
All right, I will try my best. So I'm Alp, and I'm studying in interior design, and I do spatial arts, and this is an installation idea that I have done with a fabric black fabric, like 15 meters long, and it is like in a minimalist approach, and it's meant to be like a monumental. And actually, this is like, for me, I don't like to say like it has meanings. It's just like without meanings, but just to give some feelings to people. And this is like the picture that you're seeing right now is the 3D renderings of the piece. And the piece also has been like exhibited in one of the festivals in Warsaw as an installation. And yeah, that's it. I mean, this is just like a monumental piece that you just look and get some feelings.
Yeah, however, it is very ephemeral. Since you are talking about monumentalism, and I have a feeling that very easily this whole monument can fall down, or it can be even folded into very small, tiny piece that you can put inside your backpack or something like that. But actually, I was, while talking about meaning, I was thinking about the word "an." You told me it
Yeah,
means.
the name is it's called An, and this name also has been like, it's, I chose this name because it means a moment, and it was also like really a short word, so it's like fits with like this minimalist approach.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like the piece kind of like represents a moment from the time, so it's like this shape, actually you cannot see it still, and yeah, it's just like captured in this form of the fabric, and it just represents a moment from time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Also, to the public, I would like to introduce our website and Instagram that was created by participants. So thank you guys for doing this. Thank you for doing great job during this project. And if anyone wants to return to this story, you can find us easily on Homework ASP or ASP WordPress.com, or follow us on Instagram. We will be very happy to meet you there. And I think I don't want to talk any longer because it's very difficult now. I feel that the tears are coming into my eyes. So I will just stop talking, and I give the voice to the rest, or to the public as well. Maybe you have some questions. That's the moment we can return to any work, and you can ask the artist for details if you want. So we have, let's open this more or less formal situation, and let's just discuss and have fun. So cheers.